morning, everybody. Welcome back to day 2 of the Pioneer SM-Q300B restoration. And in part 1, I hope you enjoyed it. We brought the unit back to life. We tested some tubes out and determined that some of them weren't good. We're going to do a little more testing today. I kind of cheated on the tubes a little bit. I wasn't as thorough as I could be on that, but I've pretty much determined that all the detectoring is working good. It just seems to be like we're not getting output for one channel here. We're getting strong on one channel and just a little ghosting on the other channel, symptomatic of an output problem. Let me put this Pioneer badge for the power transformer away before that gets lost. So we want to solve that issue, and to do that we're going to have to get into the guts of this a little more. We've done everything we can do on the top side of the unit here. So we're going to have to start tearing into the bottom of it here. And this is going to be a world of a bird of a different feather. I think it's kind of cool on the back here. I just noticed this. Got that service sticker from Norman's Electronics on March 3rd, 1971. How cool is that? So this thing has been in the shop, so we'll see some evidence that it's definitely been worked on. We're going to pop the top here, and this thing is going to be chock-a-block full of components, and we're going to be very careful. We don't want to mar up the faceplate on this. Don't know how difficult. I don't know how difficult that would be to remove. We're going to have to eventually remove it to restore that glass, but I'm thinking we can be pretty careful. You should always work with a piece of carpet down. So we're going to be particularly careful to what's going on, attentive to what's going on in this area in the output section, which relates to back here. We might have a cap that's gone bad on that side and a big electrolytic capacitor. So we are going to see. I've reversed the speakers and everything. Well, we'll get into it. Let's open it up. You never know what you're going to find inside, huh? Woo! All right, well, there it is. That I wasn't kidding you when I talk about the components. And this unit is so old. Generally, I'm not an advocate of restoring restorations that undertake a wholesale change out of parts, say electrolytic capacitors and things like that. My thought is that sometimes it kind of ages like a fine wine, and it acquires a sound patina to it that's very very agreeable. And when you go in, you risk disturbing that patina. The second issue is that a lot of people will clip out all of the electrolytics and try to go back and put them all in one fell swoop, and then they get one reversed, they get one hooked down to the wrong position, and the next thing you know, they have no idea in this forest of components where they went wrong and which part. So it really makes it a nightmare for them. So this is our output section over here, and I'm immediately seeing this resistor. This looks like a real like a 2 mega ohm red. I don't know, just off the top of my head. That looks like a very high value resistor that kind of got cooked a little bit. It's kind of bulging on the end there. So we're gonna get the soldering iron out. We're gonna lift a couple legs of these resistors and test some of these components. We're gonna try to chase the signal down through here too. So we want to be careful, you know, that all the big capacitors, we don't have any mega huge ones, but they can store a charge in here. But anything we do with the power on, we want to make sure we're only using one hand. One hand will be in our back pocket, and the other hand will be on our test lead, okay? And I'll explain why in a minute. Okay. You know, when you're working on tube products in particular, if you're reaching into that set and you have two hands down on the board, guess what? And if you're unlucky enough to get hot and electrified at that point, that current's going to move through one arm, up your arm, and over through your heart, and it's going to pathway to your other arm. So you're going across right there, right passing your heart muscle, and you could induce some atrial fibrillation. You know, could have fibrillation and other. You could stop your heart. Okay, so it's like one hand in your back pocket, one hand on the test lead, one single path, and it's not likely that you're ever going to pick up a shock. These tube units can be deadly because the voltages used are so exceedingly high. Okay, let's just be aware of that. All right, the other possibility here too on this unit is we have some of the big can capacitors have gone bad and need to be replaced too here. So let's start checking some things out, and we'll take it from there. We'll try to determine where the sound is being lost in here. I have the signal tracer. Whoa! Look who just popped in. Hello, Jen. Welcome to the forest of pain. What's wrong? Anyway, welcome, Missy Jen. What I'm doing now, I just have the volume low here, is I'm actually tracing, remember, one hand only on the unit, okay? I'm tracing the signal through the pathway here, trying to find where that signal is losing or not picking up amplification here. So it's kind of a tedious process. And I'm using this ICO model 147A signal tracer here. And like I said, I can already see, I don't know how well you can see this component. Looks like the heat got to this. It looks like a 2 megawatt, 2 million watt resistor. Looks like that's barbecued. So I'm going to check the leg. I'm going to cut that there and test that value. I'm going to test a few of these resistors in the output area and check out some of the caps too, okay? All right, I can remove the signal generator, not the signal, but the signal tracer. Just getting confirmed that the problem is definitely up here in this area. So the nice thing about the schematic, and I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but at various points on these tubes, and these are all tubes, the 6ANA to 6BQ5, they all give you voltage readings that you can measure. Like off of, you can probably see this pin number 7 up here on this 6BQ5 EL84. Says it should be about 360 volts coming off of there to driving our output on one of the channels. So we want to check on both sides here to make sure that you know, we're getting an even kind of drive on that. So just do one of them for you here now. And if we go up here, these are actually marked on the bottom. I don't know how well you can see it, but if I get on pin 7, which I'm on right there, you can see 361 volts, which jives pretty well if you look down here with our 360 volts that should be coming off of that pin. So that's want to go through and carefully check the voltages. That'll give me another indication of where a potential problem lay. It's just another thing you do when you're doing repair work. Just try and isolate where the problem is. Well, we got sound now out of there. Well, I'll tell you what, let me turn this volume down. Been a hell of an hour here going through testing. I think I must have tested about 50 of these resistors, and when I was finally down in the area where we're having the output problems here, lo and behold, when I went to put the probe on one of the resistors, the leg wasn't even making contact on there. Didn't even have a good solder connection, so I went ahead and resoldered it on there. You're not going to be able to see it in there, but that was one of the important one of the important detector ones for that side, so we're not shooting the signal over to the EL84. And guess what? She's firing the hole now. Tell you what, when that thing came to life, when I popped that on and that other channel came too, but it just goes to show you in handling and shaking and moving over the years. Remember, this is almost 60 years old, this unit here. It's not unusual for something to be jostled and maybe a original solder connection that wasn't made that well comes loose. This is why you have to take a very close visual inspection and then poking around. And like I say, I probably tested about 50 or 60 resistors up in the output area here. And it's a long and tedious process. It's been about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours of doing that. It's not the most glamorous work in the world. Now, I'm going to button this up now. The unit sounds great. Some of you may say, oh, you should pull out some of those electrolytics that you have in there. And let me just take a look here and let me show you what we're talking about, because, well, these are the electrolytics, and I'll point to some of them here. You can see the ELNA 0.05 microfarads here, and these go in a these have to go in a certain direction here. They all have a coding for a positive and negative lead on them. They all have to go in correctly. You'll see there's a band on here, and they're just not popped in. They're just not popped in willy-nilly. You can see here's another electrolytic down here, Nichicon 20 microfarad. 40 microfarad, 150 working volts here, 300 words. These could probably do to be replaced, but like I said, my feeling is if it's not mucking up, then don't mess around with it. You know, these are yeah, this is the, and the other thing too is that these are oil filled caps. Excuse me, these aren't really the electrode. These are oil fill. These can go bad, but these are ELNA, which is a very good brand. But you see the ones with the positive on the side. You'll see some that are marked positive and negative. I don't know where my head is today. They're the electrolytics there. These are just the oil filled, the 0.05s. But there's another. ELNA is a very good quality. You can see anything that's marked with the plus has a plus side, and of course an implied minus side there. But yeah, some of these oil ones do go bad, but the sound is so awesome coming out of the unit now that I don't know if it's worth doing that. So yeah, oil paper caps they are there. I'm just not used to, I'm not that used to seeing these jobs here. But they're all the oil filled, the 400 working volts and all that. But if it's sounding good, you know, I'm not the kind of person to just go ahead and take them out. So, you know, like I said, I think there's a certain patina to it, especially when this unit sounded so good when I had it all evened up. Plus, a lot of these are going to be an ultra pain in the ass to get to. Can you imagine getting down here? I mean, to get to this oil filled down here, you got to remove these 3 resistors and this electrolytic here to get down to that. Now, you could wire above, but remember, you're going to have the bottom panel. That's probably the way I would reverse it and put it on top. But it's still a pain in the you-know-what to do that. And I don't really see any signs. The ones that had a little, you know, it's just the coating a little bit must have gotten a little warm, but the values are still good on these resistors. These are probably the Allen Bradleys. They're all very high quality stuff at that not Allen Bradley, but very good quality stuff at that time. Japanese made. So ELNA is an excellent brand. The Nichicons here, very good. Nippon Chemical. So I'm not anticipating, you know, I'm just going to button it up and enjoy the unit, right? So, all right. go ahead and put that cover on. I want to do some basic cleanup. It's going to be good to clean off the tubes because that'll help dissipate heat a little better here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I keep going back and forth whether to replace these for balance. The EL, I got the new Russian-made ones here. Still running the old ones. I've gone back and forth, pulling them out, putting them in. So I don't know. I kind of like to, you know, I got other projects where I'm going to need the EL84s, and they're not cheap to buy. So I think I'm just going to run with these. I'm going to try to clean up the inside. It's really, I'm not going to worry so much about the grime. I'll do some basic cleanup. You can see I've already started here, clean up those tubes. And very carefully, we're going to finish the clean up the front. Got to be very careful because of the silk screening on here. There's no going back. If you remove that, then you're dead. Same thing with the screening on the glass. I don't even want to touch that because I know how delicate that is. So let me do some more cleanup in here, okay? Maybe you're just like my mother. She never be satisfied. How can we be careful not to bend the pins on the tubes, okay? Especially when you're putting them back in. Right, all I'm trying to do here is just, I guess I could almost spray from the top on some of these. Sometimes I've gotten to a point where I have hit the, jammed it in a little too hard and bent a pin. And you don't want to do that on these 12AX7s because they're kind of expensive tubes. And it looks like Matsushita. That's what's a Matsushita. I was hoping it might be a Mullard or really high value 12AX7 here. This is Hitachi, this one. So these may actually be, these are probably replacements when it went into the shop. I can't imagine tubes from 1959 would have lasted this long. But this will help remove some of this schmutz off the top of them. Will definitely help dissipate heat better for better performance. Okay, I'm going to keep going through and keep doing the same thing. I think we'll mix up a little of this two-part epoxy here. And we'll be able to secure that Pioneer badge on the power transformer. Okay, so it's going to take an epoxy. It's not going to be a Gorilla Glue or something crazy like that. Okay, it's going to take the real deal. And this is something of pride here. Doing a restoration, give you a good feeling. You know, to bring something back to serviceable life that came to you dead. I think it's an amazing thing to do, and you're helping to preserve a piece of history too. Significant audio history. So, all right, let that dry good and get that position right there. Kind of set that. Doesn't that look nice? Wipe a little of that excess goo and that'll be good for another 50 years. The inside's a lot brighter. Yeah, it's not perfect. I do somewhere around here. I used to have some compressed air. I could blow some of this schmutz out of here. But I'm not sure where in the hell it went. I might have used it all up, and I'm very satisfied with that. I'm going to put the cover back on that. I'm going to very carefully clean the front, and we're going to call this project. I'm just going ahead and cleaning up some of the knobs here.
The best contractors will already be scheduled out for 3 or 4 months. So why put up with the hassle of waiting and waiting to get
I'm actually doing my listening on the AM dial. I'm using the AM on this side to do a little bit of listening, just to make sure everything's good. You might wonder why I don't go ahead and get the signal generator and shoot in a 455 kilohertz signal here and tune the radio, because it's running so hot. I mean, I can't imagine it performing any better than it's performing right now. And as usual, my philosophy is if it's not running good, I mean, if it's running good, don't muck with it. So that's my philosophy on that. So I'm gonna listen to a little bit of talk radio, finish the cleaning. Much cleaner, ready to button it up now and call it a done project. I want to be very careful cleaning. I got the front very clean. I got the knobs clean. I guess I could do a little better. I'm going to do a little more down in this corner here. I'm just very cautious about the silk screen.
Wake up all the doctors, take the OP away. They're the ones who
sound amazing, and it's running so much cooler now than it did before. Really happy we solved all the issues with the unit. It looks wonderful. Turn the volume down, and we got all that scratchiness we removed from the controls. The unit looks wonderful. And we have no more red plating down there. We've solved that issue. Just a really spectacularly beautiful unit. I want to thank you so much for being along. It's always a little touch and go when you start one of these projects. You just don't know what you're going to encounter when you get in there. You could have a barbecued whole channel with a whole passel of resistors and capacitors that all have to be changed out. But it just goes to show you, if you build quality, it will last. Very few components have probably ever been changed out in this, and it's only because this unit was jostled a bit. We got some cold solder connection. One of them probably came loose. I checked so many parts in there over an hour and a half, and I just cannot believe how many were still in tolerance and still performing as designed. So obviously I'm ecstatic when it comes to wrapping up the unit. It went really well. Anyway, I am going to call it done. The final video, we've now had the vintage audio spotlight that highlighted the unit. Of course, it was not working at that time. We now have part 2 in the bag here of finishing up the restoration project. All that remains to do is to have a vintage audio listening experience, and then we'll be ready to put the unit on the wall of sound. We'll be demonstrating. I finally figured out, after mucking with this unit for 2 days in the shop, finally got a handle on what's going on with the unit in terms of some of the controls and things. Thanks so much for being along. If you enjoyed the video, hit the share button. Please give me a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. This is my passion, restoration work, not just audio, but restoration and repair work in general, and this has been a beautiful unit. So comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thanks so much for being along, everyone. Mercy, mercy, mercy.